Hello, welcome once again to the Architect's Palette. My name is Agatha Christie Rabo, and today we'll be talking a little bit more about who an architect is. An architect is not just the designer of the shape of every skyline, every humble home, every public space begins with an idea. An idea from a client, an idea from a family, an idea from an institution. Those ideas are passed to an architect who now translates the ideas into the form. And, an architect imagine what people's thoughts are, and then brings those thoughts, those dreams into form, function, and life. The architect, I would say, is a born artist and a scientist because you really have to, to be a successful architect, you have to marry the two. An artist where you visualize what the client wants, what people want, and then also a scientist because you have to know how to organize the spaces, how to use materials, what kind of materials can be used to make your space sustainable, what kind of materials will be used to make life good, feel good for the users of such a space. So the architect must marry the two, the artistic part and also the scientific part where form and art, come together and merge in the form that we all see in our cities and our towns around the world. So the architect's ideas shape the world, one space at a time. The heart of an architect is that of empathy because you necessarily have to be empathetic to be able to understand what someone wants, what ideas have been put forth to you in the form of a brief, in order for you to be able to get those ideas to form, get the ideas on paper and then, be able to translate them into workable drawings where the other professional colleagues like the structural engineers, the M&Es, and all the other specialized field can actually understand and bring their own ideas to match with what the architect has put in place. So architecture in itself is a calling and second, a career. Because if you don't have the calling of being an architect, it can be very challenging because in the field you meet all sorts of people. You have to doctor some people, you have to know some clients, and all of that. For those who are practicing architects, they'll understand what I'm saying. Because most times some clients taste you to the level where you just cannot you will not believe that it is you who is actually sitting in that room, in that conference room, or on that side going on with the project. So it must be a calling. If it isn't a calling, you may very well not be able to handle a whole lot of people who don't have the same mindset with you, but want you to design their spaces. So an architect, first and foremost, I believe it must be a calling, so that every other challenges that comes along the way, you would be able to, and take care of them and be able to walk through them. It is a discipline of empathy, understanding how people live, learn, work, and grow. The architect listens to the earth. to the culture, to the community, and translate their voices into places that heal and inspire. Every wall tells a story. Every window lets in hope. What does that mean? You have to be, in sync with the clients who want you to design for them. You have to be in sync with the community that you are designing for. You have to first of all find out what are their needs. How can you better the environment through your design? You don't want to design and then at the end of the day, the design that you did after construction, it does not serve the purpose for which that design was. You know, in such a situation, professionally, it's called a failed building because every building, every structure, every design must answer a question, must serve a need. It must be able to, look at the challenges around and then solve the problem. More like there's a mathematical equation in front of you and then you solve it. So as an architect, the ideas or the brief that the client brings to you, it's like a mathematical equation where you have to look at all the pros and cons and then solve them accordingly. Today, the architect must be an advocate. He must stand in the crossroads of design and policy, where decisions can define how people live for generations. So an architect must be an advocate of sustainability, for equity, for beauty, and for purpose. Therefore, we as architects must design for those whose voices are seldom heard: the displaced, the elderly, the urban poor, the child who dreams to play. Our blueprints must speak for the voiceless. Very important. For every space that we think of creating in any given built environment, we must look at what are the social cultural needs of such an environment and work to be able to solve the problems that those the people who live in those communities face. And it is only when you have done that that you really can be termed as a successful architect. You don't want to do designs where you completely alienate the poor in such an environment. You don't want to put up a design where the elderly are not taken care of. You don't want to put up a design where people who are physically challenged cannot use the building. So as an architect, when you go into any kind of drawing, when you get a brief and you're on your drawing table trying to put your ideas together, all of these people in any given community, any given environment, you must think about them. And how is that done? You're doing a public building and you don't have access where the physically challenged can access. It's a problem. You are designing, let's say, an estate. You don't have spaces where children can play, even adults. You don't have walkways where people can walk or maybe jog around and all of that. It's a problem. So as an architect, it is important. It's not just picking up a brief and then just putting pen to paper. It is also your duty as an architect to advocate for all of this. In case whoever you're designing for, in case whoever you're working for is not aware of some of these challenges and things that should be done in any given design or built environment, it is your duty to advocate for all of those things. Our legacy is not in glass and steel. but in the lives we transform. It is in the laughter echoing through walls of well designed spaces. It is in communities that thrive because someone cared enough to design with empathy and purpose. The true architect builds hope. One project, one person, one future at a time. Let me take that again. A true architect builds hope. One project, one person, one future at a time. Yes, because for every design that you go into as an architect, you must think of fulfilling the hope of the end users. For every project, you must put in your best as an architect to, fulfill the needs of those who have brought you in to work on that. And for those who are intending to call on the services of an architect, these are areas where the architect actually shows uh, his or her skills, because we are really not just um, designers of buildings. We have to talk about um, the social environment, the economic environment around that, transportation, talk about the waste disposal, even electricity, and all of that, electricity usage and all of that in such a building. So for you to get the services of an architect, you should be able to get all of this, not just um, you know getting someone who draws lines for you. An architect should be able to advise and put in all the elements that makes up a space, that makes up the built environment on such um, a space. An architect is a dreamer, a problem solver, a bridge between imagination and reality. Yes, we don't just build structures; we create stories that stands for generations. Indeed, that's what we do. Reason why you go to some other climes of the world, you see buildings that have been there for over uh, 10, 12 centuries, some even more. You look at buildings like the buildings that you can see here now, the Egyptian pyramids. You look at some of the tombs that myself and my friends were privileged to visit in Egypt. Some of those um, tombs have been there for so long, so long that it's sometimes when you walk through those walls and see how solid those walls still are in this generation, you wonder. So for today's architect, we must build not just for people in this generation, we must be able to build for the generation to come. So our duty it's is to build and build bridges for those who will be using these buildings, this built environment in the now and in the future. We don't just create structures, we create stories that stands generation. I think that is the most critical part of being an architect. We must build for today. We must think about the environment. We must think about the people who will be using this building, this built environment now that we are living, and then after we have left this earth. Because architecture at its core is the language of humanity. Thank you very much for listening to this episode today, Who an Architect Is. Please don't forget to comment, to leave your thoughts, and to share if this has made a meaning to you. I think in the future also, we will still be talking more on this topic. But for now, thank you for listening. Bye, and God bless.